Right, tensions persist in West Asia and the Gulf. The hostilities between Israel and Iran threaten to spill over. The return of Donald Trump as the US president adds an element of uncertainty to the situation prevailing in the region. Now, why? Because it was Trump who pulled the US out of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. But Trump did not stop at that. He imposed sanctions on Iran. And in January 2020, an Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, was killed in a US drone strike inside Iraq. The assassination took place on Trump's watch. Now, Soleimani was no ordinary general. He was the commander of the Quds Force, which is a part of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC reports directly to Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So Iran has an axe to grind with Trump. But what makes it worse for Tehran is that Trump is an avowed supporter of Israel in general and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in particular. If you remember, it was Trump who recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And what's more, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner was instrumental in the signing of the Abraham Accords between Israel and the UAE and Israel and Bahrain. Later, Israel signed a similar pact with Sudan and Morocco too. Now, the Abraham Accords were path-breaking. They normalized relations between Israel and these countries in the Arab world and Northern Africa. In October, when Trump was on the campaign trail, he said that he would not want to start a war with Iran, but he said Israel should hit Iran's nuclear facilities first and worry about the rest later. He was replying to a question about how Israel should respond to the 1st October attack by Iran on Israel. So the fear in some world capitals is that Trump's return might make Iran go nuclear. Get this, Iran might see nuclear weapons as a deterrent against Western attempts at regime change. The country is already reeling from the after effects of Israel's attacks on its proxies in the region, namely Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Also, Israel has carried out spectacular attacks inside Iran in the past. For instance, it killed at least 6 Iranian nuclear scientists, including Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. And most recently, it killed Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in the heart of Tehran, all of which would surely have multiplied Tehran's anxieties. So the question is, what is holding Tehran back? Strangely, it's not Israel or the US. It's also not the fear of reprisals from the West or the harm that more economic sanctions will cause to the Iranian economy. It's actually its own supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In 2003, Khamenei issued a Fatwa, or a religious diktat, against nuclear weapons. He reiterated his position in 2019 when he said that building and stockpiling weapons, including nuclear bombs, are wrong, and that using a weapon such as nuclear weapons is haram in Islam. Now, haram means anything that's forbidden by Islamic law. So, will Khamenei change his stand? The simple answer is one does not know, at least not yet. But his public utterances have become strident of late, especially in the wake of the Israel-Gaza and Israel-Lebanon conflicts. Sample this. On 2nd November, Khamenei vowed a quote-unquote tooth-breaking response against Israel and the US for what they are doing against Iran and its proxies. Just a day earlier, that is on 1st November, Kamal Kharazi, an advisor to Khamenei, said if an existential threat arises, Iran will modify its nuclear doctrine. He said Iran has the capability to build nuclear weapons. Now, Kharazi was speaking to Lebanon's Al Mayadeen TV channel. Now, Iran continues to produce near military-grade uranium, but its nuclear doctrine is focused only on civilian applications of nuclear energy. The Lebanese TV channel quoted Kharazi as saying that the only thing currently prohibiting a change in Iran's approach is Khamenei's fatwa. The other question is, how close is Iran to getting a nuclear bomb? Well, it depends on who you ask. Now, various reports and studies have given different estimates and timelines. If one goes by what U.S. spy agency CIA's chief William Burns said in October, Iran could have enough fissile material for an atomic bomb within a week should it choose to go down that path. Now, Burns was quick to add, though, that the U.S. had no evidence that Iran has indeed decided to build a nuclear weapon. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Iran could produce enough weapons-grade uranium to make its first nuclear bomb in just 1 or 2 weeks. A U.S. publication called Foreign Policy says Iran could build a nuclear weapon sooner than you think. Iran can have up to 4 nuclear weapons within a week and another 6 nuclear bombs in 8 more weeks. It also says Tehran could complete and deploy a missile deliverable warhead in a matter of months. Now, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence of the U.S. is of the opinion that Iran is in a better position than before to produce a nuclear device if it chooses to do so. Now, in March, Trump told an Israeli newspaper in an interview that Iran could have a nuclear weapon in just 35 days. But some others say Tehran would need up to 1 year to develop a working weapon and a year or 2 more to build a missile deliverable warhead. Now, most recently, the spokesperson of the U.S. State Department said the U.S. intelligence community continues to assess that Khamenei has not made a decision to resume Iran's nuclear weapons program just yet. Now, both the U.S. and Israel have said that on many occasions that they will not let Iran obtain a nuclear weapon. Trump said at an election rally that he wanted Iran to be a very successful country, but it cannot have nuclear weapons. For his part, Netanyahu has said that the supreme goal he has given his military is to prevent Iran from achieving a nuclear weapon. But such threats might only end up provoking Tehran into accelerating its strategic nuclear program. An article published by a U.S. magazine called The Atlantic says Israel's actions could be changing Iran's nuclear calculus and that Netanyahu's threat to attack Iran's nuclear facilities could impel Tehran to quickly make a nuclear bomb. Now, according to a recent report by the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, Iran produces highly enriched uranium up to 60% in purity, a material with minimal civilian use but significant military application, close to roughly 90% required for an atom bomb. The UN agency says it has enough higher enriched uranium to produce about 4 nuclear bombs if refined further. Now, Iranians fear that Trump would back Netanyahu to strike Iranian nuclear sites and reimpose his policy of applying maximum pressure on Tehran by way of sanctions on the country's economy. An article published by the Washington, D.C.-based think tank Council on Foreign Relations says Israel has attacked nuclear facilities in Iraq in 1981 and Syria in 2007, but similar attacks on Iran might not be effective. A U.S. online publication called The National Interest says Iran's nuclear program cannot be bombed away because Iran has likely dispersed its nuclear sites across the country to make targeting more difficult, and some of them could be buried so deep underground that even U.S. airstrikes would not be able to destroy them. In other words, detecting and destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities could prove to be challenging for Israel and the U.S. Now, Iranians, like many around the world, are divided on what Trump's next presidency will bring. Some foresee an all-out war between Tehran and Washington, D.C. Others hold out hope that the 47th president of the U.S. might engage in unexpected diplomacy as it did with North Korea. But nearly all believe that something will change in the U.S.-Iran relationship.